Has there ever been a time in your life where everything just crumbled? I mean, it just fell apart. You'd put all your eggs in one basket and the bottom of that basket just collapsed. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today with Lesley Thomas. We've been friends for so long, and your passion in real estate, I just love how passionate you get about everything you do because you love people. And you could actually trace that passion back to your childhood because you spent time with your grandparents in the oil and gas company right there in their office. And it was actually your grandfather back in those days in that office that he actually advised you as a child to pursue a career in something to do with land because it never goes away, right? And you quickly pursued that passion across Oklahoma at the age of 18. I mean, think about that with Thomas Real Estate Company. And you've been recognized in Real Trends magazine as one of the top 250 real estate companies in the United States. Now, you and your husband then decided to kind of join forces with Keller Williams. And now you're in the top 100 agents. You've won the double platinum award year after year, the lifetime Who's Who member. And in addition to running your business, well, you enjoy traveling, reading, and being at the lake, which that's one of the ways that you and I connect for sure. We both love the water. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, your daughter is so amazing. Alexandria Nicole, 17 years of age. You're a great mom. And she's currently going to Crossing Christian School in Oklahoma City. And I love that she's pursuing psychiatric mental health at the University of Oklahoma. Uh, the fact that you guys, you're also passionate about giving back. And I love that about you. You make money and you also give money. That with Anna's house, with Down syndrome and Alzheimer's, you're just helping the community in so many ways. So let's dive right in to what we promised them. I want to go back to the time, Lesley, when I mean you're at the height of the highest glory. You're selling so many homes, you're raking in the money, everything is going good, and then all of a sudden that real estate career shifts. And well, what happened?
I I identified at a young age that I really loved new home construction, Diana. And I ended up working with a local builder who at the time was doing 27 homes a year. Most of those properties he was selling to investors because he had a not great reputation here in Oklahoma City. And we decided to align ourselves with business, made some modifications, and really I put all my eggs, when you say all your eggs in one basket, I put all my eggs in one basket. I started building my career based upon building his company. And we had large dreams to go national. We did a lot of coaching and training about how to take the company national. And in 2016, he came to me and said, I've decided to go a different direction. I'm going to take everything in-house. At this time, we were doing about 600 transactions a year with them. I had a 5,000 square foot building. I had 13 employees, around 9 to 10 sales agents that were underneath me. It was devastating to me, to my ego. I felt like failure. It took a long time to get over.
It was like a sudden betrayal.
Absolutely. It was like a divorce.
Well, and you didn't see it coming, I'm sure. I mean, how did
No.
he announce it to you?
He pulled me into his office wanting to discuss where we were with the 84 pending contracts that we had. on the books. And when I walked in, the head of his accounting department was there. And he said, I am bringing you in to let you know this is where I'm going. We'll finish out everything that we currently have
Yeah.
under contract with you. And we no longer need your services.
Right. And so there you are. You've helped build this company. Where was he when you started?
27 homes a year. His
27
average
a year.
his average sales price was 170,000. 27 homes a year. When we left, or when I left in 2016, he was up to almost 600 homes a year, average sales price of 350,000.
Well, do the math. I mean, you did this year after year, 600 homes. He was doing 27 when you went on. You thought you had, wow, everything was fabulous. You thought you had a
I was working,
partnership.
I was working with my business coach at the time, Diana, to look at expanding into the Dallas Metroplex. We were actually going on site visits, and I was talking to other associates within my firm about identifying developments for us to expand the company into.
It's interesting how money always overtakes relationships, doesn't it? Like, ooh, I'm paying you too much, so I got to get rid of you so I can take all of that in-house, which is great. Yet even giving you some ideas that that's going to happen, or a timeline so you could switch your business over, or give you feedback before it happens, for heaven's sakes. That sudden betrayal can be terrible. What did it do to
Yeah.
your health?
Well, I ended up, so my office, my 5,000 square foot office was actually right next door to him. So that was a hard next day.
Yeah, you have to walk in and look, and you're paying for this 5,000 square foot office, which now you're wondering how you're going to pay for.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I obviously I had contracts on the books, but I had very small. We hadn't really designed our company around repeat and referral business, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Our business was new construction, so it was finding new business every day. Where's that new business coming from every day?
Well, and finding land and everything else for him to build on, and doing the marketing, doing everything in that regards. Like you said, you had 13 employees. Now
Right.
you're looking at all of these families. So it's kind of like a trickle effect, right? Yet I
Uh,
don't think people realize that sudden betrayal. Did you have people say, "Oh, God has a better plan for you. Just get in there."
yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of people. I mean, I think one of my coaches at the time said, you you gotta put your big girl pants on and jump right back in." And I'm like, oh, it's easier said than done, right? When you're in that,
Yeah.
it really took a mental toll on me.
I think it attacks your ego in such a way, because then you start, I don't know about you, did you wake up at night going, what did I do wrong? Because
Yeah.
there was no feedback. You had no
And
idea
what could have
what
I
you
done
did.
better? Yeah.
Yeah.
What should have I done better?
Well, with no feedback, you don't know. Or selling 600 homes a year. Now, I'm just curious, did he go on to sell 600 homes a year, or did it go backwards?
Oh, no, he's doing really successful. We built a great game plan for him, and a
Good.
wonderful, so
Because
he's
I
doing
only,
great.
yeah, you only want them to do better, and I would too. That's
Yeah.
all. You just pray for them to do better, because you
Yeah.
never want something that you were part of to ever go backwards,
Right.
right? It's
And
kind of like your baby.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I look at it now. I didn't look at it back then, but now I look at it and I'm like, it's my baby. I think I did a really good job. He's the number one builder in Oklahoma City right now. And so I think I did a really good job.
Yeah. Well, you did do a really good job. And sometimes you have to look at it later to say, you know what? I don't know what I did incorrect. Nobody ever told me what I did incorrect. It just happened. And you're right. You keep going. Yet it does attack your ego. It does attack. And the people sitting around going, oh, just put on your big girl panties and deal with it. Yes, you're doing that and you're dealing with it. It's a grieving process. That's kind of like when somebody close to you passes away and they wouldn't say, put on your big girl panties and deal with it. Really? I mean,
Yeah.
that's called no empathy whatsoever.
Right. Right.
Or
Right.
they don't realize what you're going through, which means they have no empathy. So let's go back to that. I mean, that took a toll on you. It took a toll on your marriage. It took a toll on your mental health.
Well, it did.
So,
It definitely took a toll on my marriage. My husband went to go work for him as a sales and marketing president
mm,
during that time. So, to ensure that we had income coming in. So that was another kind of blow, right? It was,
mm,
yeah.
wow, you got knocked down, and your husband said, "Okay, I'm going to go to work for him and help him." Ooh,
Yeah.
because we need the money. Well, you know what? Money is interesting. You have to do what you have to do because without it, we
Right.
can't live, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So Brian's over there doing his marketing. You're actually helping Brian. And so now you've got this conflict going on in your
Yeah.
head. Like,
I'm having to show up at, I'm having to show up at company events as a supportive wife.
oh, wow.
Yeah. And I moved most of my staff. So I think one of the questions you had brushed just a little bit on is what did you do with your company? Well, I ended up offering my whole sales staff because mind you, my sales staff were his on-site sales agents. So it wasn't just me losing my job, it was my staff that was going to lose their job too. So I gave them my on-site sales agents. I ended up, one of my employees is still with him today. And so, I ended up shutting down my company next door. Graciously allowed me out of my lease.
Oh, that's good. No, that's really good.
Yeah.
And I know you well enough. You're like me. You forgive instantly, and that's what you want to do. And you pray for them to really be successful.
Yeah.
That's the right thing. Yet, let's go in to how did you begin to navigate through all of this, especially with your husband working for him?
It took a little bit, Diana. I'm not gonna sit back and say that it didn't. It really took a little bit. It took me taking a step back and realizing what my priorities were. I realized really quickly that that my books looked really good and my overhead looked really bad. And so I realized really quickly that I could turn to the people that I loved and that they would support me. So financially, I rebounded really quickly with real estate because I just started reaching out to my people that loved me and sharing what I was doing and absorbing myself back into the market the way that I always had previously. So that rebounded fairly quickly for me. But I still had those doubts of failure. Um, and I tried to stick in that same lane of going after new construction and builder business.
Mm.
And a few years into that, realized that's not my lane anymore.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where it was, and now it's somewhere else. The other part is the people that supported you. It is amazing what support does for your mental health. So, talk to us about that. How close did you become to those people that supported you?
Well, I really took the advice of you and Tony and identified who my top 5 people were that I wanted to be most like and reached out to them on a regular basis. Um, I I had to lean on them, and there were times where the conversations weren't great. There were times that I got to hear things that I didn't want to hear about myself that needed to be modified. Maybe I needed to think a little bit differently.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting because who you were being at one moment shifted that fast. And it shifted in such a jolt, like I said, a sudden betrayal, that it's hard to comprehend. So you need those 5 people that you can lean on that will be honest and truthful with you. And yet you had other people supporting you. Did you go back to your past clients? What?
Of course, yeah. Yeah. Well, I had to get back into everything, Diana. I went from this huge staff to one assistant. I mean, I hadn't wrote a contract in myself in probably 10 years. I didn't even know how to log into our KW systems and models to even do a green sheet to get paid at the table. No.
Well, yes, because you've been taken care of and you had other people, you were paying them and paying them very well to do that. That had to be a pivotal moment in your life. And so, what helped you not to give up? I mean, I know your grit, I know you're persistent. Yet, at that moment, did you ever feel like, I just want to crawl in bed? I mean,
There were probably, looking back, there were probably weeks where I probably did, have a week or day, probably more like it. But no, I think the thing that drove me the most was I have a daughter who has always seen me um, do things at a really high level, and I wanted to make sure that I mirrored that right for her. And to show her that we don't ever give up, and we don't ever let our dreams fall to the wayside, no matter how hard it is or how challenging it is, that we have to have the determination to move forward, even when you feel like the world's kind of against you in that moment.
well, and right now in real estate, there's a lot of agents that their business, let's face it, that the market was fabulous. A lot of order takers at one point, and that's not to take away from salespeople. It was just there were so many people out there in the marketplace with low interest rates and that, and now they're going up, and people are finding that they have to shift, they have to pivot. And so it's the same type of thing. They knew their business this way, and now it's this way. We have to do something different. And that's what you were faced with. Plus, you were faced with an identity that it collided. That identity had to collide in a somewhat of a painful way. How did you begin to rebuild your sense of self-worth towards success and in your business?
I had to get back to my fundamentals that I had gotten away from, because my fundamentals of my day-to-day in new construction was very different than my fundamentals as a real estate agent who loved and had a desire to make a difference in families' lives and in my community. So I had to get back to getting up in the morning at 5 a.m., doing my meditation, going to the gym, taking care of my health to put me in that mental capacity and fall back in love with real estate. I had to fall back in love with real estate.
Did you have to fall back in love with yourself?
Of course, I didn't know myself. At that moment, I woke up one day and I didn't know my why anymore. Uh,
So it was like
and
you'd lost your purpose of getting up in the morning.
yeah, yeah, it was hard.
There may be people out there right now that are feeling that they've lost their purpose. They're not making as much money. They're wondering where their next sale is going to come from. And yet you kept moving forward. What advice do you have for them to keep moving forward? What should they do?
The best advice that somebody gave to me during that time was to do a mind dump.
Mhm.
Anything and everything that was on my mind, just to dump it, put it on a piece of paper, and just then go and identify your top things that would relieve my stress that day. And sometimes it was just going to get my car washed that day,
Mm.
uh, that made me feel proud of myself, that made me feel accomplished. And then the next day it was, okay, now I need to call 10 people
Yeah.
and talk to 10 people and just check and see how their day's going. Uh, and so I think that's the biggest thing, is no matter how little or how small you, a lot of times we feel really overwhelmed, and especially in shifting markets, we feel really overwhelmed. Our business is shifting. We're losing control of things at home. We may not be maintaining our laundry, or little things like that, that you can really if you can make that list of, here are my items that I need to do that are going to make me feel accomplished today, then tomorrow that list is not going to be existent anymore. And so tomorrow you might, right, have the strength and the willpower to call those 5, 10, 15, 20 people that you really need to call, that are going to boost your morale even more, because they're going to love to hear from you.
You know, what you're talking about here is it's about your life and your business. And they go like hand in hand, right?
Right?
So when you compare today to the day after your setback, what's the biggest difference that you've done in your career that helped catapult you forward?
Consistency.
I love that word. Consistency in like lead generation.
Lead generation, lead follow-up is more what I do today, is lead follow-up. It's following up on the people that I love, to see what's going on in their lives and see if there's any way that I can help them in what they're doing, where they are.
Well, and you're talking about helping other people, which is something that you've always done. It's always been about the other people and not about yourself. Yet, with that sudden betrayal, what I was hearing is you kind of went inward towards yourself. And now you're getting back into it's all about other people. And you did that fairly quickly. I mean, we're zeroing in on some things in case people are hurting. People are anxious. People have anxiety. They have stress. It's building. And that's what we want to help you with today, because you learned resilience. You learned what grit really was through that experience. So, what advice do you have for them if maybe they don't have that resilience and grit?
Get up, get up every day and do your best, right? Write a task. Put things on paper that you know that you can accomplish, whatever that may be. And if you're in real estate, right, which is what we're talking about, maybe it's you need to take a car ride and find a neighborhood that you love. And then find the people in that neighborhood that you can connect with to drive that business forward.
Yeah.
For me, it was finding my top 20, 30 people that I love to just talk to.
Oh, that's really good. And then you just started calling them. And of course, you found out that you're not as bad as everybody wanted to talk about. And you had to make it a daily habit, I know. So tell me a daily habit, a mindset practice that you have that keeps you grounded and keeps you moving forward.
Affirmations. What I tell myself is what I believe. And I constantly have to stop saying negative affirmation. Even to this day, I have a life coach. I say he teaches me how to adult. And to this day, he will say to me, "You can't talk to yourself like that. That's not kind." So
Well,
affirmations.
It's so funny with those words, I am. Everything we say after that is what really counts and connects in our brain, right? So, literally, I know we're going to get into some more real estate things, yet I wanted the people to hear that they're not the only ones that has ever had a bad time, right? So, what hope, what encouragement do you have for people that maybe their business isn't doing as well as it has in the past?
Identify where you want your passion to be in real estate. I mean, spend a little bit of time examining it. Don't run away from it.
That's great advice. So let's get into lead generation. You said you went back to some of the people, the 20, 30 that you really loved and enjoyed having conversations with. Sometimes people are frightened to ask for referrals. So give us some ideas of how you ask for referrals.
Oh, I did a couple of different things. So I started doing events, little get-togethers. I do like mom and daughter like go to a clothing store, and I'd have, discounts and food and stuff like that. I did masters events where the guys would come together and do it. And it wasn't big. They weren't big events, Diana. I mean, I had 30, 40 people. I mean, that's a lot, I know, for some people, but there were some events where we had 7 or 8 that showed up. And what I found is as we were interacting more with them, we were able to follow up, and our follow-up list became more and more and more, because those 20 people then invited 5 more people, and then 30 more people. And the next thing you know, our follow-up list was 500 is what our follow-up list was. And then we were able...
Yeah, go ahead. And you were able to...
Then we were able to dig into it to see who was actively looking on the market, active in the market. And we were able to pull from that. And then that's evolved. We now do a big event every year. And we had about 325 people this last time to our event. We plan on growing it. And I can tell you 90% of my business is coming from my events that I'm hosting, but it's the lead gen up to the events that's creating the business, because I know everything about the 300 people that are showing up at my events.
Well, and that you said earlier that lead follow-up was your big thing. And so the lead generation comes in. You started with very few people. I love the way you put that. 7 or 8 people showed up. Maybe 30 was a large one for you. Now there's over 300 showing up. And when you make those calls to invite them to an event, it's a whole lot easier than making cold calls.
Yeah, and what I found, Diana, is that I knew a lot more people that liked me than my 10 or 15 that I started out with, right?
Well, and so your identity grew, your confidence has grown. I mean, all these things that you are now doing in your life, that the identity you had at that moment in your life probably wouldn't have allowed you to do.
And I never would have imagined that my business looked the way that it does today.
Yeah. See, it's who you're being, because who you were being before the event happened to you, or that you were very confident, very assured, doing fabulous. It happened. You had a different identity as to who you were being. And then you had to get back who you knew you were before. And the interesting part here is it is about being before you can do something. That's what I want people to really hear, that you went through that, because you had to help change the being part of you in order to do the things that needed to be done in order to have the things that you have now, and to give back to Anna's house.
Right.
That's a big thing. So tell a little bit about what advice do you have for realtors you told them to go out and find a place that they would like to get to know people. How did you do your first event? Let's say they have no money or very little money. What kind of an event could they have?
Yeah, so I literally found a little boutique that I loved here in town, and I went to them and said I want to do this mom-daughter event. They said, "Oh my gosh, we would love it. We'll give them 15% off if they buy anything when they're here." And it was a cute little place. It was free. They were giving my clients a discount.
Yeah.
And I went to my title company and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this event. Would you sponsor some food?" And so they sponsored, little meat and cheese platter and sandwich tray. And I mean, and had they not, it still would have probably cost me, $50 to do it. And I had probably 15 to 20 people show up, and great conversation and wonderful times. And as a matter of fact, 3 of those people have bought homes for me this year. Um, eh,
It doesn't have to be this big, glorious,
no,
wonderful thing. That's what I want them to get.
no.
That you went in loving these people, desiring to show them a good time, helping them save money, and
Mm.
everybody benefited.
But now, Diana, where my mind shift has taken place is I do that everywhere I am now. Unless it's something that, I'm with my family and I want to be 100% present, and I don't want anything to do with real estate in that moment because that's the time that I'm designating specifically for my loved one or friend. But any room that I walk into now, it's who are the 4 or 5 people that I need to know in this room?
Well, that's a great question to always ask yourself. So, what do you do to go up and introduce yourself? Because you know what? Some people go up and go, "Hey, I'm in real estate. Here's my card," or whatever they do. It's about them. I know you well enough that you make it about the other person.
Yeah.
So, let's say I'm brand new. I mean, you don't know me. You want to get to know me. I'm in the room and you approach me. What do you do?
Well, hi, Diana. I'm Lesley Thomas, and I have just been watching so many things that you are doing here in the Oklahoma City area. And I wanted to come over and introduce myself because I just really admire what you've been doing.
Yeah. See, I mean, who could turn you away with something like that? And here's the other part. You know what people are doing. You literally keep a pulse, if you will, on the heartbeat of what's happening in your city and the who's who of the city.
Well, and
No,
that's why I say, Diana, don't run away from real estate, because a lot of people I think that are newer in the business because or went through the shift in the market, it was an easier time to sell homes. You still had to, show up and at least get dressed and be out at a house somewhere
yeah.
to get business, but it was an easier time. And people didn't have to know the industry then. They didn't have to build the relationships. And I see so many associates that I talk to that started during that time that can't even tell me 5 neighborhoods in their town.
You know, it's interesting. And even the people that they were working with, because it was going so fast and furious, and you were keeping your fingers crossed that your contract out of the 20 would be accepted,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Even to go back and say, you know what? When you purchased the home, things were going so fast. I didn't really get to know you. I'd
mhm.
love to just sit down over a cup of coffee, a Coke, whatever, and
Well,
just get to know your story.
and that's what I had to do when I left the build when everything severed with the builder. Think about the amount of sales that we had had. My hands were not on all of those. And
No.
so I had to call these people that didn't know who I personally was. And I had to say, like, hey, this is who I am. This is where my role was, right? I had to reintroduce myself to these people. This is
Well,
where
yeah,
my role
because
was.
you had a salesperson that actually sold them the home. They dealt with the salesperson, the builder, the title company, the mortgage person.
And my transaction department.
Yeah, and not you. Even though they used your name, they didn't know who you were. You were like the person behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. Did you really exist?
Yes.
And so I just want everyone to hear that no matter where you are in life, you can rewire your brain. You can rewire all the things that have ever happened to you, and you can become more because that's what you've done, Lesley. You
Yeah.
have taught yourself to be a greater person. And that being of who you are right now is the same person that loved everyone before. You still love everybody. So at this point in our conversation, what's a question that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have asked you?
What is the one thing that I would give that I would want somebody to really take away from this?
Great question.
And that's no matter where you are in your life, no matter how hard it seems, or no matter what you're facing, whether it be medical or just lost, take some time for yourself to really decide what it is that you want. And then once you make that decision of what you want, don't run away from it. Embrace it and find a, a motivational book, a, a motivational person that you look up to, and reach out to them and say, I need your help. And humble yourself and say, this is what I'm going through. And
Yeah. It was interesting when you reached out to us. And I loved the vulnerability. I loved how open you were, how transparent you were, and how willing you were to get feedback.
thank you.
That
And it takes people, I think, giving the humility, because the people in your lives, I always knew that you and Tony would be here for me. Uh, you, but you didn't know what I was going through unless I was willing to open up and share that this is what I'm going through and this is my struggles. And uh, and that's that way with anybody. It doesn't have to be you and Tony. It could be your brother. It could be it could be a coworker. It could be a former boss. It could be a former teacher. It could be anybody. And just go to them and
anybody
be
that will
honest.
listen and care about you.
Mm-hmm.
Because there will be people that'll just say, "Put on your big girl panties and go to hell," right? They don't care enough to really understand where you're at and then give you
Right.
good advice. Because the good
Right.
advice, we didn't say, "Hey, just get back to work." We said,
Right.
"Hey, what are you going through that has to hurt?" I mean, you got to get where they're at and meet them where they're at, and then help them come up. So let me tell you, in asking people, like, who is this person called Lesley Thomas? Said determined. They said committed, loving, captivating, and strong. And you've proved each and every one of those, how you never
Thank you.
give up, that life is more than business. You're determined to take a step forward, no matter how many steps somebody pushed you back. And you build a daily routine, no matter how small it is, something that you can accomplish. So you build your self-worth and your confidence. I just want to thank you so much, Lesley, for being with us today, because I know that you've helped a lot of people to become more as you have.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. I love getting to spend time with you.